Hi, Gary.
Hello.
It's unfortunate your wife can't be here, but I'm so glad to have you here. I really wanted you to speak on my podcast, especially for Mental Health Week coming up next week. But first of all, before we continue that, I attended the funeral of Constables Jordan and Ryan last month. I just want to know how that community is doing of first responders since then.
Yeah, I think when you look around we've bounced back a little bit to a moment of a little bit of normal, come back a little bit because the work still continues.
Yeah.
People are still hurting though. They're still grieving. There's still moments of sadness, and I think that's going to come in waves as time goes on. I don't, such a tragic loss of, especially to really great people, a lot of people are impacted by that. And so I think over time, I think things will kind of get back to, but there's no real going back to the normal.
Yeah.
Right. It's just a new sense of normal. So people will grow from this and people will change and they will, hopefully they'll take something out of it that will improve their situation, but there's still sadness and there's still a lot of grief and grieving to be had.
Yeah, for sure. And it's good that with the work that you're doing, you're helping to support that community. So that's amazing.
We're doing our best. Yes.
Thank you. So now let's go into, what you're all about. I read your book, actually. This is awesome.
Yeah, call for
You can see that I've made some
some tabs, yeah.
some tabs there. So yeah, tell the audience actually about your story.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
The book was born really truly out of my experiences over the last 20 plus years of being a police officer. And in about 2009, I just about lost my family. I just about had a second divorce and I really wasn't present. And that was as a result of a number of instances that happened to me throughout the period of time of my career that led up to that 2009 year. And truthfully, it really, with all those experiences, I thought I was really good about putting things in a box. I thought I was very good about, dealing with these situations until I wasn't.
Yeah.
Right. And of course, the major incident that really pushed me over was my officer involved shooting. That happened late in 2007. And through that experience, through all of those moments, I had to make a decision. I made a choice to be there for my family. I made a choice to be a little bit different. And when I did that, the doors opened for me and opportunities came for me. I mean, and it wasn't without effort.
Yeah.
It wasn't without falling down. It wasn't a perfectly straight line.
Right.
I didn't get there overnight. And I just kept saying yes to those different opportunities that gave me the ability to sort of learn something new.
Yeah.
And in one of those experiences, I had the idea for a book. I thought, well, I'm setting these ideas. What would I really truly love in my life? And I would love to share my story because I believe that sharing a story, sharing our experiences, especially in the frontline community, we tend to get a little bit closed off. We tend to be a bit skeptical about other people.
Yeah.
We tend to keep to ourselves.
Yeah.
And by doing that, we're not really helping other people around us that see us going through our struggles. If we struggle alone, we all feel like we're alone. But if we share our story, now we're sharing it, saying, hey, we're not alone in this. This happens to more people than what we think.
Right.
And that was really the driving factor behind trying to put this into a book like this. I wrote the book with the intention to help serve people, to help serve the community, to help provide examples that will bring correlation between whatever experience they're going through.
Yeah.
Not just for the frontline members, but their families and those other people that read it. Because I believe that there's impact in our story and there's things that are in there that will help everybody just make one little choice, one little difference. Because you just have to be this much different. Yeah. Like an inch different every day. Yeah. To improve our situation. So that was really the inspiration behind the book and the intention behind having it out there to people.
Okay. So you talk about in chapter 6 of your book how there was this stigma of, PTSD, not talking about it, keeping it in. I watched a CBC documentary on oil patch workers. it happens there too, and we saw the results of suicide and drugs and just everything that could possibly go wrong with keeping all that information in, right? So let's talk a little bit more about that.
Sure.
Yeah,
it's interesting. When I reflect back, as hindsight's always amazing. I believe that when we need to have a vision of where we're going. Of course, we're growing into something, but it's important to look back at where we've come from.
Yeah.
And how far we've grown, because that comparison is really truly the measure of how we're doing in society.
Yeah.
And when I first started, there was zero talk. If you had any trouble or you weren't good with something, you didn't want to be quote unquote that guy.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And those comments, that mentality does cause people to really go inside it. And if you were given that label, if you went off because you weren't doing well, then you were given that label. And I think that really does affect, historically, of how we show up in those moments, because we're sort of isolating people. And the thing is too is that when you go through those moments through the career, if you were to have difficulty, they would send you home or put sequester you, right?
Yeah.
And as time has gone on, as we've grown and we've learned about PTSD, occupational stress injuries, it doesn't have to be full-blown PTSD to impact you, right? We walk into everybody's worst day.
Yeah.
And we're meant to be that person's or those people's calm. We got to give them some presence and some hope that they're going to be okay.
That's right.
But what's not talked about is the weight or the stuff that we throw on our shoulders or in an emotional backpack that we carry with us, because we see things that most of the public.
Oh, I've read some of your yeah.
And that adds up over time if we don't have a proper way to unload it. If we don't have a proper way or a resiliency cup big enough to understand how we can pour some of that out.
Yeah.
And that unfortunately was the result of the stigma, right? You get that stigma, you get attached, you fill your cup up, and then you break.
Yeah.
Right? Or you turn to things like alcohol or other gambling or other types of
suicide too,
and it could potentially be suicide, right? Like, so when you turn to those things and you're coping in that way, it just leads to other distractions, and really mental health is still incline, and there's still an increase in mental health concerns around our frontline workers. But there's also I've seen a lot of programs come into place now within the organizations, within just the people and the way they talk about it around the table. It's not such a bad thing anymore to have a conversation about how we're feeling.
Yeah.
And that truly gets to the heart of what this is all about. It's about how you feel. Yeah. And how is it affecting you? And what, maybe you went to a call, maybe it was a SIDS death or some type of young person that was injured or hurt.
Yeah.
And maybe you've got kids at home the same age. That's going to impact you because automatically you go right back to your family. And so those feelings have to be discussed and we have to unpack, and it's okay to feel those feelings. And I think that's the greatest thing about it is we really realize that it's okay not to be
okay.
Right? Yeah. And people are okay with saying, hey, I'm really bothered by that.
Yeah.
That really, really bothered me.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think we've come a long ways when it comes to just a conversation piece.
Yeah.
That's become more normal.
Yes. Yeah.
There's a lot of work to go. We're not quite there yet.
Oh, yeah.
I would love to see more action pieces attached to that. So finding different ways or ways we can implement things ahead of time to have processes already individually posted. Yeah. Because resiliency is the ability to bounce back from a crisis, right?
Right.
To normal. Yep. That's what it means.
Yeah.
I honestly believe that resiliency is more than that. It's understanding that we've gone through something, because you've gone through whatever that is, whatever that moment is for that person or anybody. Yeah. And we have to unpack that. But hand in hand with that, it's a yes and. It's this, and we need to know who we want to become. Yeah. So we should have a vision or an idea. Who are we growing into? Yeah. And that should be set ahead of these instances, because if you have that, then the recovery and the growth is much quicker, it's much easier, and it doesn't last as long. Yeah.
So do you find that with people, you talk, I think when you're talking about this, it's a person going through this has to be very aware of what's going on
Yes.
with them, right? And sometimes with those people, they don't know, right? They don't know how to be aware. How can you help these kinds of, these people that these frontline responders here
Yeah.
that are going through that, you yourself, I can see you've went through this process, but I mean, I've seen others who are like, it's like their bottle's about ready to burst and they don't know what to do. How do you reach out to those people? How can you help them?
You know, uh, truthfully, I think really it's about that awareness piece. So being aware, right? So
Yeah.
if you can, I mean, I've invested a lot of time in myself. I've invested in my personal growth and development,
Yeah.
and what I've learned from my own personal coach, my own
Mhm.
person that I lean on when I can't see my own, because you can't see your own blind spots.
Yeah.
She puts it this way: if you're in the picture frame, if you're in the picture,
Yeah.
and you can't see the frame,
Yeah.
and so that blind spot truly does show up in a lot of people's lives,
Yeah.
right? So I think if you can just invest a little bit into yourself, or
Mhm.
take some additional, like a personal development training or
Yeah.
some type of workshop or something like that,
Yeah.
that gives you the ability to just tune into your awareness.
Yeah.
And all it takes is, and like it's a simple concept to just notice what you're noticing.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you feeling, if you're noticing that
Mhm.
the same patterns are
Yeah.
showing up, well, just be curious about it.
Yeah.
And how do you help them in that moment? I think it's just if you can give them the ability to just look within themselves,
Yeah.
reflect within themselves, give them a time away, like,
Yeah.
whether that remove them into a place where you have an environment with people in a room, and you just are together as a community, and you just start talking about
Yeah.
what are you feeling? What does it look like? What patterns are showing up in your life?
Yeah.
And that awareness alone can change that trajectory. And
Right.
that's the first step in building resilience.
Right. That's right.
Right. It's the first
Yeah.
step in, if you're not aware of what's happening,
Yeah.
how do you fix it?
Yes, that's right.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you don't know what you don't know, there's
Mhm.
no way you can go ahead and move forward.
That's right. That's a good point.
Right. So
Yeah.
that's one of the very first things. And that's
Mhm.
what's in understanding what you've been through is important,
Mhm.
but it's hand in hand with
Yeah.
what are you growing into,
And then getting the supports, ensuring that,
for sure.
right, that you have these supports. I want to talk about chapter 7, how you had in your situations out in the field, and I tend to do this too. I second guess myself, and it's
Yes.
like I'm up at nights doing that. How do you? I mean, I guess being more aware now helps, but how can you overcome that or manage it?
Yeah. That when I first, so after my shooting,
Hmm.
that moment, when that happened, and
Hmm.
immediately after, some of the things I was asked to do, show exactly where it happened, and all
Yeah.
these little things that have to happen procedurally within the service. My mind almost went a little bit blank. Like, I couldn't really answer a lot of questions. I had a lot of, there was a lot of stress there.
Hmm.
And then after that, I picked apart that moment, those 38 seconds of
Yeah.
time, right? It was 38, 45 seconds maybe at
Wow.
most.
Yeah.
Felt like 3 or 4 minutes, but it was
Right.
very, very short a time.
Yeah.
And I literally, down to the millisecond, second guessed every decision that I made in the moment.
Hmm.
And looking back on it, it really caused me a lot of the grief. I was
Right.
like, all of the stuff I was experiencing,
Hmm.
it compounded the feelings that I was having there.
Yeah.
And it compounded my breakdown,
Right.
right? Because I was so hard on myself.
I understand that.
Right. And,
Yeah.
and I think that's a human nature thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think as a society, as human beings, I
Hmm.
think we do that in everything that we do. I think we do something, and whether it works out or it doesn't work out,
Yeah.
either way,
Yeah.
we second guess. Well, if I would have done that
Yeah.
differently, it would have been better,
Totally do
right?
that. Yeah.
Or, oh, that didn't work out. Man, if I really would have changed that, then maybe
Yeah.
I wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
And I don't know how we actually get rid of that.
Yeah.
I think it's just
Natural
natural in
reaction.
our
Yeah.
reactions.
Yeah.
What I think truly does help, though, that because when I look at my time now, as I move through my my growth, and I'm at where I'm at now in my life, I've come to believe in faith. And I don't mean like religion. I mean like just faith in something greater than me. Yeah. And I was saying it earlier. So I've been on stages and I've done my talk, and I've come off the stage and went, man, I missed that entirely. Yeah. But then I'm like, but I got feedback from the people saying that was amazing. They enjoyed the talk. They got something from it. So I've learned to embrace that moment of, to everything I've done was done for the right and perfect reasons. And there's a message in it for me. Yeah. And what message does it have for me? So I ask better questions. Oh, nice. I ask better questions of those moments. So when you have a second guessing moment, when you think, you go back and you think, oh my goodness, I'm second guessing that whole path. I think instead of second guessing, as soon as you're aware of it, you can repattern it, right? Right. You can stop it and then you can repattern it. Not only that, you can ask a question. Well, what message does this moment have for me? Yeah. And you can sit with that question. And my coach will tell me that Albert Einstein was he'll argue he wasn't one of the smartest people on the planet. I would argue differently. Yeah. I'd say he probably was one of the smartest people on the planet. But he says that the reason why he had so much success is because he sat with the problem longer. So he sat with that question longer than most people would. Oh. And so I think that's a great lesson, someone I believe to be a very smart person. And so if he can sit with a question longer, so that's just, for me, I just try to like, okay, if I don't get an answer right away, that's okay. I'm going to sit with that problem, sit with that question, sit with that second guessing just a little bit longer, and maybe I will get a message. Yeah. So that's something that I think is important. Awareness, and then just asking a different question. Yeah. Yeah. And being okay with how it came out, the result of that, because there's growth in everything. Absolutely. Wow. I want to point out, just because I am a listener, you talk about your wife, learning to listen to her when she needed you the most. I expand on that, just because, like I said, I'm the listener, so this is important to share with the audience. Yeah. My wife and I, we've been together for 18, 16, 17, like 19 years-ish. Congratulations. Okay. It hasn't been a blissful 19 years. Right. Of course, you've had some problems along the way. Yes, I read that. But in the moment where we were in our worst moments, we were at crisis, or it was like DEFCON, whatever. Yeah. I was in that really terrible moment of imploding our family. Yeah. She had the courage to sit me down and say, look, I'm not prepared to live like this. Right. I think we can do better. I think you have a lot to play in this, which I did. Yeah. And she had the courage to say, hey, look, I am not going to stay here if this is the path we're going to be on. Right. But I want you to be with me. I want to have a life with you. I still want this, but I'm not prepared to live this way. It was a really hard conversation. Yeah, I can imagine. And the courage it took for her to sit me down and to have that face-to-face. This was so important in that first step, because I knew we were in trouble. Yeah. I knew that I was in a place where, where it was, things weren't great at home, but I didn't truly understand how much it impacted her. Right. And so she gave me a book. It was called the 5 Love Language book. Ah, nice. That book literally single-handedly would have probably saved our marriage in that moment, because I was showing up for her in the way that I thought the way I saw love, the way I knew love was. Right. And which wasn't her. Like I brought her tulips one time. Yeah, I remember that. Tulips in the book. In the book, yeah. And I'll never forget it, because we had a rough night the night before, and when I bought these tulips at the store and I brought them, I was so proud of them. I was so excited. I'm going to do something nice for her. It's Easter. It's it's springtime. Tulips are everywhere. And I bought tulips, and she opens them, and she just started to cry. And I'm like, well, what's going on? Not tears of joy. Not tears of joy. And she was, I flipping hate tulips. You never freaking listened to me. And so right then and there, I realized that I wasn't listening to her.
Yeah.
Right. And so when she gave me the book and I read the book and I went back to that tulip moment, I'm like, huh, well, no wonder, because she doesn't want gifts like that. That's not her love language right now. Right now, it's acts of service. I need to do things around the house more, and be more attentive to our young son, and to be more attentive around the house, and to take that load off. Because essentially, she was looking after two big kid and a small kid, right? And I didn't want to be that burden on her. And so, and by listening to what she had to say and listening to how she was feeling, I realized that I had to do something differently. And moving through our life, we've opened up a new way to communicate, and we, as we grew through that, and as I changed, and I wasn't perfect at all, like not even a little bit. There's a lot of falling down. There's a lot of like, remember what we talked about?
Yeah. Wow.
There's a lot of that going along, right? And I'm like, oh yes, and I would speak about how things are, and on the flip side, there was moments when she would do things, and I would have conversations about, because she wasn't perfect either, and she'll say that. Mm-hmm. But truly, I got to learn to listen to her voice and truly listen, and not just like have her talk to me.
Truly listen.
Like truly listen, hear exactly, and let it sink in, right? And I turned off my. I started to go. Okay, I'm not going to even think of a response. I just want to listen. To what she's saying. Yeah, I listen. It's like, you know what I'm saying? It's that I was just wanting to hear what she had to say and let it really seep in before I responded.
Wow.
And that really helps with deepening our connection.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And now when I look back at it, we laugh about tulips because she likes tulips now. Yeah. It's really confusing to me. But I mean,
man.
But I mean, it is what it is, right? Mm-hmm. So we've grown, and together we have, we can communicate now about very, very difficult stuff.
Yeah.
And we don't have and we can do it in 3 or 4 minutes.
That's awesome.
Like it's not a half an hour conversation. It's like a 3 or 4 minute exchange, and we know what people are saying and each other are saying, and we can really relate to each other.
Wow, you guys have really good communication skills. So definitely,
it's helpful, and it's grown our relationship.
Yeah,
really, truly. It really does.
It was an example, you guys, everybody.
It can be done.
Yeah, it can be done. Yeah, you just have to be aware, and now let's talk about. So you went through this journey, and now let's talk about the business that you and your wife created.
Sure.
Yeah.
We sat down one day. And we were asking some questions about, well, why are we where we are? How did we get to where we got to be here? Mm-hmm. And we were doing pretty well as compared to some other people that had been through similar situations.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
And so we'd asked the question, well, what is it about our situation that's caused us to be kind of flourish and others not?
Yeah.
And what we realized was that we were doing a lot of things differently.
Yeah.
And then we had the idea, well, how can we help people in that moment? And so that's where our BWC, or Benoit Consulting, was born from. And then inside of that company, we launched the Frontline Resiliency Project as a way to give back to the frontline community and their families and those that support them, because we want to bring them together for different events and give them opportunities to hear different speakers, to engage in communication with other first responders who are maybe struggling a little bit, and know that we're not alone.
Yeah.
We truly believe that you can heal through community and connection. We believe that wholeheartedly, that if you bring people together as a community and you support each other in the community, we can truly heal whatever's going on.
Yeah.
With that support.
1,000%.
And so the company itself, like I say, we also, through our journey, I've been trained in peer support as a facilitator.
Nice.
Through the Canadian Mental Health Association. I helped assist with facilitating a few groups around Edmonton as a volunteer. My wife is a grief recovery specialist, so she's got training in grief and different things to help mitigate some of those feelings of grief.
Yeah.
We're both certified coaches, and we're both licensed financial professionals in Alberta. And I'm in Saskatchewan.
Many hats.
Yeah, and the reason is that we want to have the ability to provide as much education when someone asks me a question. I can, I believe financial stress too is one of those things that can break a marriage down. It's number one cause of divorce, right? And that was part of the reason why we looked at everything and we looked at some of the stats, and money problems cause people to have troubles, right? So if we can get educated there and we could help them with some tips, then we thought we could, help them build that resilience in that way as well. And the coaching program is called ULA.
Right. ULA.
Yeah, it's kind of everywhere.
Yeah.
But we just believe in the way it's designed. We believe in the way that it's got the platform for the 7 key areas, or your fitness, your finance, family, field, faith, friends, and fun.
Right.
And those areas, for me personally, it unlocked the door to so many things. And so that was part of the reason why we really leaned into, well, how do we bring this? How do we support them in this way and give them all of the stuff that we've learned in one place? And we continue to evolve. We continue to grow as a company. We just hosted a gala on the 15th.
Yeah.
It was an amazing turnout, and we had a great number of people there that had an amazing evening with some really inspiring words from the ULA Seeker, Dave Braun. And not only that, we just really, really do believe in just providing different supports and partnering with community members to give the options for people who decide to touch base with us. Right. And maybe it's, we can guide them through a coaching program where I can, give them some tips, over time. Or it's just referring them out to somebody else who might be better suited to help them in that moment, depending on where they are in their journey.
Tell me about how much funds you raised at the gala.
Yeah, I think we got right around $11,000 or $10,000 for PTSD service dog, which is amazing.
That is bravo.
Yeah, it was awesome. So the best thing about it is that money will go right to the service dog acquisition program.
Yeah. Oh,
and
nice.
OSI Can, which is the partnering charity that we joined up with. It's their acquisition program, and they're a branch of the Mental Health Association, or Canadian Mental Health Association. And they will match that $10,000. So we insure to get a dog for someone. Oh my God! So it's guaranteed that someone's going to get a dog out of this, which is amazing.
Oh, that is totally amazing. Yeah. So you just finished up with a gala. What future projects or initiatives do you have going on?
At the gala we launched a documentary trailer.
Woo!
It's called Beyond a Call for Service. And so we've been working on this for a while. And we're now looking to cultivate some partners in bringing the full documentary, about an hour and a half is the idea, to fruition. We have, some people to reach out to, and if anybody is listening that wants to get on board and wants to reach out and knows someone we might be able to talk to, that would be amazing. Yeah. Not only that, but that's our next big one. We want to try to get that out there and see where it goes. Yep. As well as we do have a golf tournament that we do every other year. So it's not going to come on this year, but this year, it's the year after. Yeah. And then there's going to be a couples retreat hopefully coming up it's not 100% on the schedule, but it's, we have an idea when it's going to be. It's going to be in the early spring of 2024. Wow. And then in between there, of course, we're just going to be working on the documentary stuff. So. Yeah. That's a lot of work you guys are doing. Yeah, we're working hard. Holy cow. Well, before we end, and thank you for spending some time with me, I like to ask my guests one important question, and that is, what matters to you? What matters to Gary? What matters to me? There's I believe it's important to impact people's lives. Yeah. I believe that if we decide for a change, if we decide that we can do things differently, just a little bit, then we can make the world a better place. And I don't think this can't be just, one or two people. I think everybody has this ability. Yeah. And, once you make a decision for something, things can really change. And I just truly believe that impacting people's lives and making the world better, because I have a 16-year-old son. Right. He's an amazing kid, and I want to leave the world a better place for him and his generation, because truthfully, that's the goal. Yeah. And if we can do that in kindness, and we can do that together, then there's no better way or no better legacy to leave than a better world or a better place. So
Yeah.
So that really matters to me. And that's why I've done the book. That's why with our business, we just want to make it just a little bit better for everybody. And like I say, even if you're like 1 degree better than what you were yesterday, how much, if you do that every day for 365 days, if you're 365 degrees better than you were.
You bet. Yeah.
When you started. And so it's like, it's just one step at a time.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Gary. I appreciate you. This is a great book.
It's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.